point of view of there is a study, landmark study from the government resources, and it looks like data is not correct. So I want to just see one more area here. So this is page 9. Here they're saying treatment with corticosteroids or IVIG had been clinically administered by patients treating neurologists or an NIH neurologist consultant. 12 patients, 50%, received oral corticosteroids. 7 of 9, 75% patients who received standard prednisone dosing, 0.75 to 1 milligram per kilogram for 7 days, followed by weekly taper of 20% of the initial dose, reported significant symptom improvement after 2 weeks. Then they said 3 patients who had persistent symptoms of small fiber neuropathy and dysautonomia for 5 to 9 months were treated with 1 cycle of IVIG. I believe Bree is part of this group they're talking about, 3 patients. And they're talking about 5 to 9 months later, the patient still had the symptoms and they had small fiber neuropathy. So they gave these patients 2 gram per kilogram divided over 5 days. 2 had been previously treated with corticosteroids with no improvement. So maybe Bree, you were one of these 2.
Right.
And then they say in all 3, symptoms improved dramatically within 2 weeks of IVIG treatment, with complete resolution in one and mild residual symptoms in the other 2. So did this happen? Did your symptoms actually dramatically improve? And
So
then
this is what I'm trying to figure out, because if you actually only looked at a snapshot of 2 weeks post IVIG, I felt quite a bit better at 2 weeks.
Okay, this one is Jordan Peterson series part 4 on the Michael Oziak channel. And in the background, we're listening to a
Post
victim.
IVIG. When the IVIG wore off, I went back to being as sick as ever. So
that's very interesting.
yeah.
So if I was a researcher, I observed you for 2 weeks after IVIG and I said, all good, 100%, I'm going to write it down 100%. I should know as a medical doctor that IVIG is only going to clean out what is in the body running around the other antibodies or antigens, but IVIG is going to wear off. Normally, human antibodies wear off between 3 to 6 weeks. So usually by 3 weeks, you may start having the symptoms again. But they have already noted it down within 2 weeks.
Okay, so there's a green filter on the camera outside, and then I got this red filter on in here. Let's see, maybe I'll leave it off. No, I'm going to leave it on. I'm going to try the filter today. Oh, it's good. I just took the filter off the camera anyway. So now it's no filter. So the red filter will work better. If you're going through 2 filters, it does get fuzzier, but it also adds some contrast.
So from their point of view, it seems like it is okay. Then they say
followed us for beyond 2 weeks. So we know that they have the data for several weeks beyond 2 weeks.
well, that's interesting. So they actually followed you further, and they only reported on the 2 weeks when you felt better.
Right.
Then of the 11, that's of the 11 patients that never received immunotherapy, 7 had partial recovery, 3 have had no improvement, and 1 had complete recovery by 12 weeks post onset, as determined by subjective assessment and returned to pre-morbid functional status. The only question left in my head is, what is the final status today? Out of 23, 10 fully recovered or 15, or looking at the therapy, corticosteroids and IVIG, I would suspect nobody has recovered.
It would appear that way. I don't know anybody that went that's recovered.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's go over the study together, just so that we have looked at the study as well. So 23 patients, 92% female, 100% reported sensory symptoms. So these are neurological symptoms comprising severe face and or limb paresthesias. Paresthesias are abnormal sensations. And 61% had orthostasis. So when they are standing up, they have the blood pressure abnormalities, heat intolerance, and palpitations, tachycardia. Autonomic testing in 12 identified 7 with reduced distal sweat production and 6 positional orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So distal sweat production is as the body's distance from the center, let's say the center is the brain, as the body's distance continues to increase, the farther distant parts of the body are not producing the sweat as correctly. And what is the reason for that? Of course, there is an order from the autonomic nervous system to say produce the sweat. So in the early parts, it is producing sweat, and in the later not. That means the neurological system, the nerves are damaged or are under stress or are inflamed. And so the signal too rare. We only have these 23 patients and that's about it. Or were they, the data was not there, or were they lazy? Was it deliberate? Do you have any
Those are all
conjectures?
really good questions. I know.
It's deliberate. It's deliberate. And it's all of us. That's the shitty thing. It's 7.8 billion. I mean, half the people that we know, probably about half. Probably, I would say about half, because we're all evenly divided on just about everything. In other words, how many people are still walking around with masks on, right? Right now, at this moment, 3%, I would say, of everyone that I see, 3% of all the faces I see are wearing a mask right now, which is very low. But at a time when we knew everything was bullshit, and at a time when we all knew, as a population 7.8 billion strong, that masks that did not even keep out microcarbons, they keep out some microcarbons, but not all of them, microparticles, whatever, microparticles. So if they're not able to keep out microparticles, then they're definitely not going to be able to keep out nanoparticles, right? We all know that. Everyone knows that. You can triple mask, double mask, but unless you're going to put a tank on your back with a couple hoses going to your face, then no. You're not going to be able to stop the nanoparticles from entering your body. And they're going to land on your skin and everything, and they'll absorb that way anyways. Even if you were breathing properly, there's still other absorptions, ways to absorb these nanoparticles into your body. But pulling them into the lungs is a guaranteed way, and it's fast. And these particular metallists, they like the moisture in the lungs, and they're going to take over in there and pull in a lot of moisture and cause fungus, because that's what they are. These particular strains, there's thousands of those strains. They're all the pneumonia strains, is what I call them, because I try to keep things simple for myself so I can understand them. And we all went along with it. It's unbelievable that we went along with all this. So, nurses and doctors are feeling shitty. Not enough, in my opinion. Not enough of them are feeling shitty about all the mistakes they made. Now, this girl was just mentioning 1,000 milligrams of steroid was too much for her, but she was not having a lung problem. They were using it to do other things for her nerves and her muscles and things like that. They were hitting her with steroids, just like bone cancers and stuff like that. And your muscles are all depleting. They'll hit you with some estrogen, I guess, and then that makes you even weaker, the estrogen. And they can't hit you with a steroid though, because of the condition that you're in and all this stuff. So it all gets kind of complicated. The other one that I was talking about in the last video I was doing, there's this other batch of people too that they unfortunately blamed the fact that you could not make it to the doctors, and then they make a thing out of that. Well, then that shouldn't have been anyway, because we should not have all been locked down and closed up, but everyone went along with it, and we went along with it with false claims that it was safer, better, and we all knew that it wasn't. We all knew that this was coming. We all knew that, 70-80% of the population was not believing what we were going through and what we were doing, but they put the fear factor into us. Okay, well, then the fear factor could have been taken out of us by shutting off the television. Don't buy the fucking newspaper. Don't go on any um, don't go on any websites. I mean, throw the goddamn phones in the garbage, for shit sakes, and let's get to reality. Let's go outside our front door and talk to our neighbors and friends and family and try to go back to that again. It's going to take some time getting practice and getting used to it, because we've all been programmed all down these different roads, separated and divided from each other in every which way. And then this crap here that I can't even say the name of is just several other ways that we all are divided. And it's a no-win situation if you can tell people things that they already know and say, okay, well, think about that. If the masks are not keeping out the nanoparticles, then why are people losing their jobs if they don't wear a mask? If the you-know-whats don't work, then why are people losing their jobs if they don't get them? And then if the you-know-whats don't work and they're actually hurting people more than the actual problem was even hurting people, then shouldn't we take them off the market and start all over again? None of these things are going to happen. They're going to keep on pushing forward, and they're still making them mandatory. You just heard this guy just say the reports are coming out saying everything's fine. All the people that are claiming they get hurt from it are not really hurt from it, and we already fixed them and they're all healed and it's no problem. But then the people that are supposedly in the study, here's one of them now, and she's telling you, no, we're not healed. She's putting out $3,500 a month extra in medications to try to stay alive. She can't even go to work. She's fucking sick as hell. And there were all these different people that I was meeting while we were going through it. I was mentioning some of them earlier. Everywhere I went, there'd be somebody telling me stories about uh, they go and get the you know what, and then days later, there's someone sick, and then a month later, they're dead, and all this kind of stuff. And I brought some of it up at a party that I went to a while back, a few weeks ago, or whatever it was, a month ago. And everything I talked about with anyone ended up being a debate and an argument, no matter what it was. Politics, the you know what shot, the you know what's and the you know what's. All these things were being talked about here and there, mostly by me. But when I bring them up and you get to see what people are thinking about it, you're like, wow, man, they still believe it. They still think that that's a good idea. And one of the conversations was about all the people that we lost after they got the you know what, after they got the second you know what sometimes. But a lot of times they go through the first one and it was already a bad experience, and then they're stupid enough to go get the second one, and then they end up passing away. So when that was going down, so I brought up one person's name, and then my buddy that I was talking to, he says, oh, no, no, he already had cancer. He was dying of cancer. He was in really bad shape. Well, dying of cancer doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to have a heart attack, and, especially if he was being treated for the cancer and everything. And I don't know how he went and got the you know what if he had cancer anyways, because I thought we were saying we were not going to do that. With people with cancer, we're not going to be allowed to get the you know what. All right, so he ends up dying of a heart attack. Then another one that I brought up to him, to my buddy, is, and I said, well, what about him? What about Billy? I said he didn't have it. He had a stroke and a heart attack, and he didn't have any signs of anything. Like, oh, but he was old. He was old. Nah, not really. I mean, he was like 71, 72 or something like that. But I mean, he's just not very long out of retirement. So it's kind of strange that it all went down this way. And then I bring up another one, and then my neighbor across the street here, I asked her son. I said, I don't want to pry, but what was the final diagnosis? Was it the you know what? And he said, oh no, it was heart attack. And I said, well, was it a lung shutting down causing kidney failure, which brought on a heart attack? And he looks at me sideways and says, actually, it was, but it was a heart attack though. And I'm like, oh, okay. So sorry about your mom and whatever. But in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, well, these are adding up a lot, because this is like the 100th one that I've heard in the last couple months. Back then, this is what I was thinking to myself back then, when this was all going down. And then, of course, then my cousin, 50 years old, not even 49, 50, no, 49 years old, I believe. And then same thing. And I said, yeah, he's been going through pneumonias, just like everyone else. They go through these pneumonias for a few months, and after the you know what, they take the you know what, and then all of a sudden they start getting these pneumonias, and they make it through the pneumonias and everything. And then within a few months, sometimes a little longer, I noticed that, because it was kept happening over the next year and a half, 2 years, up until even to now, to this exact time. But I'm just using examples of people that were all around me. This was happening. It wasn't just turning on the news or opening a newspaper to find out. It was all around me, but they were just in denial about what the hell was happening. They couldn't take it to the next level. They couldn't take it there. It's too much for them to get their head around. They'd rather be distracted by their movies and music and bullshit stories. And then I said, well, what about, so then I made a couple calls too, during this time, and because I wanted to know, I'm sorry about Uncle Paul, but I got to ask, so what happened in the end? And it's heart attack. Okay, heart attack. It was a lung shutting down, causing the kidneys to fail, which caused the heart attack. Well, yeah, but it was a heart attack. And it goes on a death certificate as a heart attack, and everybody declares it a heart attack. But is it really a heart attack? Well, yeah, maybe in the end. But it's always lung shutting down, not always, but a lot of the times in these situations. So there's something to be said there. And it was always after they got the you know what. So you get the you know what. Now, these are all people mostly of older ages. Then you got all the, you know, students. These are being pushed on the young kids and the students. And so then we heard about all the sterilization, which takes longer to find out because the outcome takes longer. So a lot of the young people that I know of personally, that are just in my life all around me, that you can't act like a fucking crazy person and beg them not to go do this to themselves, but, you talk about it a little bit and give them some fair warnings without scaring them in either direction. Because there's only one direction to go in, is just don't do it. Don't do it. Stay away from these fuckers. They're all lying to you and they're fucking you up. You don't have to tippy toe around it, really. All these people that are tippy toeing around it, don't trust them. It all has to be said. You're going to get shut off of YouTube, then fine, start another fucking channel. It's all got to be said now. I can't keep holding back on all this information anymore. Is this thing playing? If it's on pause, I'll be pissed. Why is it not playing? Yeah, it is. Okay. Then there were all the ones that were also saying that because you couldn't get to a doctor, that we were not able to diagnose you. Therefore, cancers have all spread throughout your body and your bones because you could not get in time. So I even question those, because those are all coming in after the you know what. So they go and get the you know what. Now, a lot of the people, many of them, I mean, I could name them all out, but then they'd be upset. I can't pull people's private lives into this. But we all know this. This is all happening to all of us. Just have to look around a little bit and you'll see. It's not something you're going to read in the paper. It's in your own direct life, happening everywhere. And if I wasn't here spouting it out to everybody, blah, 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 oh, my uncle died, 52. Oh, this one died. Oh, that one died. And if I wasn't around to say, oh, well, did they get the you know what and when? And they're looking at me sideways because they know what I'm leading up to and what I'm about to accuse, everybody of and all this. They won't go there. They just won't go there. But I ask the questions anyway, and I try to do it in a nice way so at least I can get honest information. And it sure to hell seems to me that that's exactly what's happening. Everyone you talk to, and then they'll say, well, you can't blame it on that because it's impossible. That can't cause cancer, and that can't cause inflammation, and that can't cause this and that. And yes, it's doing all these things. It's doing all of them because there's a lot of people. Because then you dig a little deeper and you say, okay, well, did he go get a? When was his last prostate exam? Oh, a year ago. Okay, well then he would not be in stage 4, stage 3 or stage 4, or he or she or whatever, depending on who the person is. If they're woman, ovarian cancers or whatever, they would not be in stage 3 and 4 of these things if they just went and got looked at within 6 months to a year. It's not going to grow that fast, and if it does, then I would again question the you know what, because it was after you got the you know what. So maybe you did, because we all have cancer in us. We all know this. So maybe the you know what increases those cells. So if it is increasing those cells, then it's something else that needs to be talked about immediately, so that all these mandatory ones that are coming down that are still coming through, it can all be stopped. Because if it's, how many minutes am I at here? 20 minutes only. Okay, let's try to get these guys back. I'll try to finish this up because I got other shit I got going on.
That once we realized that they were one of the only research institutions in the world that we knew of that was looking into this, we flooded them with patients. I myself referred hundreds to them. So they had their pick of the litter. They chose who they wanted, and there were several more that they worked with remotely with their home physicians. And some people were enrolled in this study, but the vast majority of who they worked with and discussed with, they were not. And it appears, the responses that people got, responses that physicians got from them, because we sent a lot of people. We said, hey, have your doctor call this research team at the NIH. They know what's going on, and they can help, guide your physician in your care, or at least say, yes, neurological issues are happening. We're not entirely sure why, but you need to take care of your patient. And they did do that for a long time, but something shifted, and those conversations became more and more cryptic as the end of 2021 progressed. And then it was radio silence by the end of the year.
Very interesting. So 17 months later, they at least send out a preprint, which has lots of inaccuracies, at least in my opinion, from speaking with you. I was actually very excited about it, that they are recognizing, and now people would have a way to go and, anyways, I'm repeating myself. So as a patient then, you have tried corticosteroids, IVIG, what else?
Monoclonal antibodies. I just barely started with the IV vitamin C and the NAC. We've tried the naughty horse paste. When you're that sick, you're willing to try whatever to get your life back. Yeah. I mean, you've already lost everything. So what else do you have to lose?
Yeah. So we lost your voice. Bree.
Am I there? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Oh.
So now we can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes. So we lost you for a few seconds. So tell me this, so if I go point by point, corticosteroids helped temporarily, then not, right?
She keeps getting shut down.
Bree?
This is what's happening to everyone. Every channel
Bree,
that I'm
you there?
watching, everyone's
So either my
internet is
network
fucking up.
is... Okay, sorry.
I just want to say I have never had this problem with an interview before.
It may be on my end. It may be StreamYard.
No, it's everybody. We're going through it for about 2 months now. Internet is slowing down and slowing down and slowing down. Again, you got to remember, they just brought us all this shit. This is what I was saying in that earlier video. They brought us all this bullshit. slowly but surely moving up the lines from the phone lines to the cable lines, and then they brought us over to fiber optics, and then they brought us, now they're bringing us, they have already into 5G, which is supposed to be wireless and all this kind of shit. um, they're enslaving us further and further, enslaving us. That's what they're doing with all this. And then they did this all the way down the line. That's why I was bringing up in that earlier video about, in the old days, 10, 11 years ago, they got rid of the last of the dry loops. The dry loops from the phone company, that you didn't have to have a phone hooked up to it. You could just have an internet. But it was going to be slow as hell. Doesn't make any sense. If there's nobody using it anymore, and 99.9% of the people have switched over to coaxial, because that's what they told me, everybody's going over to coaxial. It's cheaper, it's better, it's faster, it's this, it's that. And I said, I know, but I don't like it, and I don't want it, and I don't trust them. So can I please keep my dry loop? And I had to fight with the phone company for a long time. And I was one of the last ones in Connecticut, in that whole area that I lived in, out of tens of thousands of people that still had a dry loop. Nobody else did. And then when I came to Massachusetts and put a phone hook up here, I tried doing the same thing, and I had to fight and argue with them. And they said, nobody does that anymore. And I'm like, yeah, they do, because I just was doing that in Connecticut, and I want to do it when I move here. She said, yeah, but no one's even using those phone lines anymore. So I did get them to come in and use them, because even those companies were now switched over to using coaxial, the phone companies, by the time that was going down. But I wanted to use the old line, and I did. But you can only fight City Hall for so long, because then other people in the house are like, this sucks, it's dragging, it's slow, it sucks. So then everyone starts updating everything behind my back. And then we went up to coaxial, and then we went up, and now we got fiber optics coming in through the outside, because it's happened. We got the 5G garbage and all that shit going on. So it's all been upgraded, and then here we go again, another slowdown, because they slowed us down on the regular coaxial. We had to upgrade to the 5G if we wanted to go faster, and not be getting thrown off websites and everything, and the computers shutting down all the time, and all this weird shit happening. Well, it's all happening again, even with the 5G. And I said that throughout every one of these stages. I kept saying to everyone, they're doing this on purpose, because it doesn't make any fucking sense. Think about it. If 99.9% of the people that were using the phone lines and clogging it up, and that was their claim, was that the technology for the phone lines was too old, so too many people on it, so we want to push you all onto coaxial. Okay, well then everybody went on the coaxial. So me, the same, whether it was me and another 1,000 people even, let's say, wanted to still have dry loops, it should have been fast for us again, because there's nobody using it except for us 1,000 people. And it wasn't 1,000, it was one. They told me I was the only one in that area of Connecticut, that whole fucking district that they took care of, that still had a dry loop. She didn't even believe me that I had a dry loop when I was talking to the people. Usually I had to, they had to look up my account and everything like that for 20 minutes, and they have to go through it, and they're like, oh yeah, you do have a dry loop. And I'm like, yeah. And then they go, oh, why? Why do you do that? It sucks. Nobody's on that anymore. Nobody's using those phone lines. What are you doing? Why don't you just switch over to coaxial and go with the cable? We'll still service you as a phone company and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So he had to fight for it, and then it never made any sense. And then when I moved here, and we were going through the same thing, and it was real slow, I'm like, nah, this is a fucking trick, man. Because when I called and set up, they said there was no one else in Massachusetts out of the entire state that had a dry loop, and they could not understand why I was calling to have a dry loop hooked up. So that's what I did, though. I had the dry loop hooked up still. They came and did it. I talked them into doing it. I don't remember what they charged me. Um, but once that was done, then it wasn't fast enough for everybody. And I said to them, don't bother, because they're going to play the same game with the coaxial cables and your regular cable. Sure enough, within about a year, things started slowing way down after they switched over to coaxial cable through the cable company for phone and internet and all that kind of crap. And then so once they did that, they bought into it, and then now they went and got the new boxes, the new modem, and it's all 5G, and they bought into it. because that's just the way it goes. And then I have to stay calm and pretend like these things are, it's fucking
Yeah,
crazy.
so not you. So you tried corticosteroids
Yes.
that work temporarily, then go back to the same way. How about monoclonal antibodies?
So I actually was one of the lucky ones to have a positive experience with monoclonals. And I even picked that data up on my walking heart rate data on my Apple Watch. It resolved my POTS. It didn't touch my neuropathy, but it was amazing to finally feel like I could be vertical and not feel like, there was a 10-pound weight on my head and my shoulders all the time. So, but
Got it.
it was temporary, and we've had a lot of people that went back and got monoclonals after the effects were off, and the second run didn't have the same effect as the first.
Got it. How about NSE?
The NAC, I'm still trying to figure that out because I had a weird reaction that I haven't had with anything else. My chest tightened up really tight for about 30 minutes, and then after it went away, then I felt great. So I got to figure out what that initial reaction is, though. That's concerning for me.
Got it. How about vitamin C?
The vitamin C, I think, is going well. So I'm going to keep that one up.
Got it. And
I was going to mention too that EKG and ERG machines, the technology, the prices have come way down. I'm going to guess that by now, because the last time I looked was probably 8 years ago, somewhere around there, and they were selling for $2,500 a home kit, a home ERG, EKG machine. So anytime that you're taking medicines, or if you go get one of these you know whats or something like that, you can actually watch everything, brain waves, heart rate, and watch your heart, everything that's going on with it. You can even yeah, it'll do a lot. And having those, like what she's saying, when she went and got the you know what, this was a different you know what. These were you know whats that were trying to counteract with the original you know whats. And because she got really sick from it. So I just wanted to point that out as I'm talking, because a lot of people aren't paying attention. Right now, I think on Amazon you could probably get them for 800 or a grand for an EKG slash ERG machine. It's a combination kit. They years ago, 15 years ago when they started making them, they were big on TED Talks and they were real expensive. But the prices have come down on them, and they're not these big machines that the hospitals used to use. They're actually reasonably sized and plug right into your computer and everything now. And my internet's all stuck again too.
and you just had another IVIG. And how is IVIG working?
The IVIG it stopped my neuropathy from progressing. My neuropathy was progressing up my arms and up my legs, and the IVIG stopped it. And now it's starting to reverse. I did get COVID I want to say about a month and a half ago, and my symptoms came raging back. The internal vibrations came back. The tinnitus was really bad again, and the POTS was bad. My neuropathy was raging again. And so as soon as I came negative, I went back in for IVIG, and it helped tamp all that down. So it feels like I kind of hit a reset button on my recovery. It set me back quite a few months from getting COVID. So I'm hopefully I don't have to get COVID again. But it does it does make me suspect that, the etiology that's going on, would I have had the same reaction from, the wild spike as I did from, the vaccine spike? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Denise says, what about IV NAD?
I haven't tried that one yet.
D3 or vitamin Ds?
I did vitamin D, and it actually, I didn't notice a big improvement with it. I still take 1,000 vitamin D every day, but I did do a high dose for quite a while. Low dose naltrexone I did do. Low dose naltrexone is something I do every day.
Okay, so you are on the maintenance dose with this?
I'm actually, just like very many other vaccine injured people, I have to
Yeah.
take very small doses of medication. So I'm sitting
Yeah.
at one. So
Oh, wow.
1 milligram, and it helps every
Yes.
night. And so if I've tried to go up to 2, and it just knocks me out. So I stick with 1.
Interesting. Jim says, does she know what her vitamin D3 levels are?
My vitamin D3 levels are healthy, and they're actually a little bit on the high range.
I see. I'm just looking at the questions. Augie says, any other therapeutics that helped?
Yes, tamping down inflammation gave me a significant jump in my recovery. And so, low histamine diet, very clean eating, which I was not that person before this. I ate whatever I wanted. But I've been very strict: no gluten, no dairy, fresh food, fresh meats, no corn. Corn sets me off pretty bad. And that's one of the things that really helped resolve my brain fog and my disassociation that I suffered with for 6 months straight. So once I cleaned up my eating, within a week and a half, my brain clicked back into place and my personality came back. So that was a big one.
Got it. Thank you very much for that. Okay to let go says, does IV mean how the med is administered? Yes. So for example, in IVIG, intravenous immunoglobulins. So yes. Equine says, killing me with the abbreviations. Apologies. We'll try to expand on those. LDN is low dose naltrexone. IVIG is intravenous cells to kill them. They're getting rid of relapses and remissions. And number two, what is the way to take care of these B cells, these cats that are just sitting there now pooping or making antibodies? So these are the two questions we're going to ask on Monday. So some praise for me. Bob Channel says, very good explanation. Thanks. You're very welcome. John 653 says, where can this wonderful lady go to share her experience? Scary to think that there are many people like her that we do not know about.
Yes.
Praying for you.
Yes.
So how have you been vocal about what's happening and educating others and helping others?
See, that becomes the problem too, is because there's so many zombies. There's just so many zombie slaves that will fight anyone's right to even talk about these things. And they're going along with the censorship, and it's crazy on all sides. So therefore, who's going to come out? I mean, so he
happened
keeps
again.
losing her. Yeah, he keeps losing her digitally.
So how about your activity around this? Have you been helping others?
Yes, we've been trying to actively get the word out. Of course,
It's amazing. It's like all the videos that I'm watching over the last month. Not only are their videos that they're making blipping, bleeping, losing sound, losing picture, all this different shit, but then my computers also, at the time I'm watching them, are blipping, blinking, losing connections, all this shit. There's major internet changes going on.
as well as I do, that in the political climate that we're in, it's extremely challenging to get these stories out. And it does make me wonder, had we actually taken an approach to this like we have for previous diseases, because this is medical, this is not political, this is a disease. Had we addressed this appropriately with objective findings and evaluation, I really do suspect that we would be in a different situation this far into the vaccine rollout. So we launched react19.org. We have physicians networks that we're building, mental health resources there, webinars that are not nearly as good as Dr. Bean's, but we're trying. And we're also trying to increase awareness. We're trying to get the word out. We had an article in Science Magazine, a recent one in Newsweek. So we're just going to keep, plugging forward to see if we can make a difference in people's perception, people's understanding as to this new illness.
See, that's the problem. We all knew from the beginning that the masks didn't work. We all knew from the beginning that the you know whats were probably bullshit, and they were. And then we knew from the beginning that the you know whats boosters were also falsities. And then, especially to go 3 to 5 times, we knew that shutting the country down in every country throughout this earth, nearly every one of them, was the wrong idea, but we did it anyway. We knew all these things. So raising an awareness for what? That we're a bunch of fucking zombie slaves and that will go along with anything that's put in front of us. We don't ever look for ourselves on anything. We always are taking the word of these other people, humans that are lying to us purposely, and we're taking their word on our lives and everything that we do.
Thank you very much for doing this. And I believe Sean is also.
We knew that we shouldn't have been shutting our military out. We knew that we shouldn't have been enrolling our children into this nonsense. We knew that we shouldn't have been jabbing our elderly parents with this jab and claiming that it was going to do them good. We knew that the virus itself and where we put people and throwing all the old people together and then and then dividing the young people who were not even getting it. And if they did, they get right through it, and because they're kids and they have good immune systems. I mean, we knew all of that, and we still know it. And now we're waiting. Oh, you're gonna blame it on China? We already know that they were in every lab. We know that they were doing gain of functions in Boston and in Canada and Ukraine and Russia and India and you name it, right? And in all over the fucking place, and in China, and probably in other places too. Just like the chips, everyone's making a big deal out of Biden's chips. Oh, he's gonna bring the chip builders to the. The chips that he's making are tracking chips. That's what they're making, tracking chips. We are going to be under so much fucking surveillance. Our heads are going to be fucking spinning. Anyone that's still standing, that is. And we're all, us, 7.8 billion of us, zombie slaves, and we are selling our souls, we're selling our children out. It's unbelievable to watch this all happening. And then I'm supposed to listen to shit like this, which is nice people. These are nice people. But I'm supposed to pretend and go, oh, well, maybe we'll wake some people up. And I got an advertisement on Newsweek and all that. It's all mainstream. It's all bullshit. It's never going to be told the way that it is. And we all know that. And then when we go find truth and reality somewhere, we deny it and say, oh no, we got to wait and see. We don't know really who blew up the pipeline, even though Biden said that he did, and he was going to. I mean, before it even happened, and even though the CIA said it was going to happen, and even though the director of Homeland came out and said it was going to, even though all these people said it was going to happen before it happened, we still got to investigate. We still got to make sure. And then Hirsch comes out with his story. And then it's still back and forth. Gee, I wonder if they did it. I wonder if if it was them. And come on, man, the whole thing's all been planned out. And this girl that I'm gonna bring to on the next video, if I still have battery life left, I'm gonna go back to that girl's squirrel vibe because she had a good video again yesterday talking about a lot of that kind of stuff too. Because there's just so much going on all at once. It's made to confuse, complicate, divide. It's made to divide everybody. I don't know what else to do to try to get this out to you guys except make the series to these people who have names for themselves, and hopefully one of them awakens. I was debating back and forth about going back to the Clayton Morris series and finishing that series, but I get too aggravated every time I listen to him now. The shit that he's talking about, and it's dragged out and it's long and not enough information really, and then the salesmanship thing, selling, no sense in selling gold and silver when gold and silver is going to be outlawed when they're ready to do that anyway. They've done that many times before, several times before in our history in the United States. They've done it many times over across the earth, all over the place, that they do shit like that. So, you're going to go buying all these gold from the government gold coins, and it's not. They're all tracked. They're all monitors. You're buying them on the internet. You fucking. They know who's got what. So when they do have their gold embargo this time, it'll be easier to find everybody with gold than it was the last time they did it. You know. So all right, I'm out of time. I'll be back.